Hello, my name is Rachel, and today I'm going to be doing my February wrap-up. It is going to be posted a little bit late because I meant to film this and post it last week, but I lost my voice again, and it was gone all weekend, so I couldn't film it all. So today I'm going to be doing my wrap-up from last week. Tomorrow I'm going to be doing my new release video for the week, and then on Thursday I'm going to be doing my TBR video for March. So stay tuned for all those videos coming at you this week. So to February. February was an outstanding reading month for me. I'm not really sure how because I was still pretty busy, but I just read every spare minute that I had, I felt like. So I got a lot read. I got 14 books read in 28 days. And for you math majors out there, that's a book every other day, which is pretty exciting. So my little spiel here for you, my rating breakdown. I had one book that I rated 2.5 stars. I had 6 books that I rated 3 stars. I had 3 books that I rated 4 stars, and I had 4 books that I rated 5 stars. So overall, that is a tremendous reading month for me. So let's jump into the books. My 2.5 star book was A Lie for a Lie by Robin Merrill McCready. This came out this month, and it's a young adult mystery about a teenage girl who discovers that her father is having an affair and basically kind of begins to stalk him and blackmail him for it. It was really weird. I just didn't connect with any of the characters. I didn't think that the plot seemed realistic, and I did not think that the anxiety issues that the main character suffered from were realistic. So I didn't really enjoy it, but it wasn't awful, if that makes sense. And I thought it was kind of unique. It's a different twist, and I can see some people really enjoying this. I just didn't. So I gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars. Next up are my 3-star reads. The first one is Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. I'm super sad to give a Neil Gaiman book 3 stars, but I think the problem was I was expecting like a Neil Gaiman like world, and I felt like he was kind of limited by the myths already set in Norse mythology. So with that in mind, it's still great. It just wasn't as awesome as what I was expecting it would be, if that makes sense. But I learned so much about Norse mythology from this book. I found myself several times going like, oh, that's where that comes from. So if you have any interest in Norse mythology at all, I would highly recommend this book. But for me, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. My next 3-star book is Gladiators, Pirates, and Games of Trust by Hayam Shapira. This was an adult nonfiction book about game theory, and it was kind of deep. You have to stop and kind of contemplate what you're reading every little bit, but it did give me kind of a new lens to view things through. Like, for instance, like when I'm watching the Game Show Network, which I totally do because I love it, there's a show called Divided, and everybody kind of has to work together, and then they have to agree who gets what percentage of the money at the end. And I mean, this is totally what this book is talking about. So it was really interesting to see the information in this book applying to what I see in the real world. But again, it is about kind of like this thinking process, so it didn't keep me like super excited, but it was a good read. So again, 3 out of 5 stars. My next 3-star read is Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. This is a poetry book, and I would highly recommend it to anybody looking into poetry, but I think the problem was that this is another one I was super hyped for when I went into it. I've heard such good things about it, and it was really good. I loved the way it was broken up. I liked that there were some illustrations mixed in. I loved some of the poems, but it didn't quite meet my expectation. So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. My next 3-star rating is for Beautiful Broken Girls by Kim Savage. This is another YA contemporary mystery type of book that came out this month. This one was really weird, I have to say. It follows the story of this boy who was in love with one of the beautiful daughters, the beautiful sisters in his neighborhood who have been found at the bottom of this kind of lake area in their community. And through a series of clues, he's getting closer and closer to why this happened. And it was, I can say that it really got my attention. It kept me turning the pages, but it was kind of weird. It kind of reminded me of like if John Green wrote The Virgin Suicides, if you can imagine that. So there were some things I really liked about it, but there were some times where I was really confused and I didn't understand why certain things were happening or why they were included in the book. So overall, I balanced out and gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. My next 3-star reading was The Selection by Kira Cass. This is a YA dystopian romance. It's kind of like The Bachelor with some like dystopian royals, and I don't know, I was into this book, like, I had no problem reading it, but it just wasn't enough to make me want to read any further. I didn't feel a super bond with any of the characters, and they kind of lost me with the love triangle. I feel like, I don't know, I'm just not interested in what happens to them anymore, but I thought the book was okay. I just kind of don't care what happens from here. So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, and I probably won't be continuing on with the series. And my last 3-star rating is F is for Fugitive by Sue Grafton. This is in her Alphabet series with her main character, Kinsey Malone, who solves a mystery. And these are all going to be probably 3-star ratings for me because they're nothing super spectacular and groundbreaking, but they're fun to read. They're easy to read. They're almost like palate cleansers. And it's kind of the same formula, but it's like a different mystery every time. So they're fun, but they're nothing like outstanding. So another 3-star for Sue Grafton. On to the 4-star. So my first 4-star rating was Fever Dream by Samantha Schweblin, and this was translated, I believe, from Spanish, and I didn't write down who the translator was. I apologize. This is marketed as an adult horror novel. It was really freaky and creepy. I can tell you though that, like, there's no like gore or anything that like kind of jumps out at you in this book, but it's just the tone. Like, the tone through the whole thing, you're just kind of like bracing. It, to me, it was like the literature equivalent of that really creepy music playing in the background. Like, you're just waiting for something creepy to happen. And it builds the whole time. So, I mean, it's super creepy. And it all centers around this young boy sitting next to this woman in a hospital. And she is, like, deathly ill. And he's walking her through trying to find the moment that this toxin, like, entered her body and has created this scenario. And it just, the whole thing seems really trippy and it's really creepy. And I still kind of don't know what happened. But, oh my gosh, that is so amazing that you can write a book in words where nothing really that creepy happens, but it still feels so like, ooh, it was so creepy. So especially if you're trying to look for translated works, which I've been trying to kind of incorporate a little bit more, I thought this was a pretty interesting read. My next 4-star is Little Book of Mindfulness by Patricia Colliard. This is a really, really tiny book, but it's full of these just really quick meditations that you can kind of do on the go. To just kind of bring you back to reality. So like it's kind of like the grounding effect if you feel yourself getting stressed out or anxious or frustrated even. So some of them are as simple as mindful walking, where you really just kind of like focus on you're putting your feet down on the ground and literally being grounded. So I really enjoyed this one. I found several things that I thought would be really great, and I look forward to sharing them with people. If I think that they need it, it would be a great thing to share, especially with like students at school. So I enjoyed this one. My next 4-star reading is for The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. This is a young adult fiction told through a series of really short vignettes, and I really liked this. I don't really know what I was expecting it to be, but I'd heard so much about it that I guess I just didn't know. But I've heard it was really good, and I enjoyed it so much I wasn't expecting to. But I really enjoyed all of the little vignettes because they were so like complex, and they're all kind of centered around this main character living in kind of like an inner city area with a very diverse family. And I just thought it was really awesome. Like, because some of them were funny and some of them were kind of heartbreaking, but like all of it together just felt real. It felt complete. It felt true. So I really enjoyed it. On to the 5-star read. So my first 5-star read was a graphic novel called Adulthood is a Myth by Sarah Anderson. This book is just on point. This is exactly what it is like to be an adult. And I found myself like just literally cracking up through several of like the kind of graphic comics throughout the book because it's so funny because it's so true. And I immediately requested from the library I think it's her second book. I just remember that it's blue. I don't remember what it's called. I followed her on Facebook and social media, and I'm on the Sarah Anderson train. I think she's amazing. It's so funny. My next 5-star read is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This is a young adult fantasy series following this, like, it's kind of like a carnival. Like, you've got like, these set people involved, and it kind of travels around, but it's not like a carnival. It's very magical and like really involved, and it's almost like a murder mystery type thing, and it was so good. I have to say, I picked this up and I started reading it and I thought, this is not going to be for me. I'm not going to enjoy this. So I put it down, and I kept hearing everybody talk about it. I thought, you know, one of my goals is to kind of read some of these books that everybody's talking about so I can also join in on the conversation. So I picked it back up, and oh my goodness, it was so good, and I fell in love with one of the characters. I won't tell you who, because I don't think it's a spoiler, but I'm not gonna tell you who. You just need to read it for yourself. You'll know. And I just really loved it. I thought it was really unique and interesting and fun and entertaining, which is exactly what books should be. So 5 for me. Next up is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's / Philosopher's Stone by J.K. Rowling. This is the 3rd time I read this book. Now, here's my Harry Potter story. People are usually shocked when they find out that me, a librarian and a lover of books, has not read the full Harry Potter series. So here's the story. I read it. Well, I don't like reading books when they're like super hyped. Like I'm getting better about it, and I enjoy it more now that I feel like I found BookTube and I have like more meaningful conversations, but I hated just like jumping on the train and reading a book because everybody else was. I didn't read it when it was like super popular. I waited until the series was almost finished, and then I tried the first book. And I just didn't like it. I didn't get it. I put it down, and I had no plans to read anymore. Then everybody kept talking about it. They kept saying like, what are you doing? And the more I got involved in books, the more people were telling me, this is crazy that you haven't read Harry Potter. So I decided to try it again, but this time I added in the audio version with Jim Dale, and OMG, that was a game changer. The audiobooks are amazing. So I enjoyed it much better the second time, and I got it. So I decided I was going to read through the rest of the series. But I read through book 1 and book 2 that time, and then I kind of, again, lost interest. But then this year, I decided to give it another try because I'm going to be going to Harry Potter World at the end of the year, and I was like, you know, it's time. I'm going to read this whole series. So this time I added in the illustrated copies of the first 2 books as I reread them, and a podcast that I think you should check out if you like Harry Potter. It's called Harry Potter and the Sacred Text. I'll leave a link down below. It was so good. They like do a talk every chapter, and they read Harry Potter like it's a sacred text, which really breaks down to just kind of thinking about what you're reading, applying it to the real world, and it just made the book come alive for me. So I read the first 2 books like this, and I loved them, and I'm so excited to get back on this train now and just keep trekking. So I will be making it through Harry Potter this year, but in February I only got through the first one, and I read the illustrated edition, and I also listened to it as well. So I listened and watched, which is like the magical combination. If you add in the podcast, the illustrated edition, J.K. Rowling's amazing book, and the narrator, I mean, it's amazing. So I highly recommend taking your Harry Potter in like that. But enough about that. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars this time. It's amazing how much it's grown. I think I gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars the first time I read it. I didn't get it, but I get it now. I get it. I'm on the Harry Potter train. I'm on the Hogwarts Express. So we're barreling through. My next 5-star rating is for the book we read for our February book club at school with the high school kids, and that was Everything Everything by Nicola Yoon. It was amazing. I read it in one day, and I loved it. It's a young adult contemporary novel that's going to be made into a movie soon, and it is about this girl who is allergic to everything, and she starts falling in love with the boy next door. This just had everything in it. It had all the feels, but it had like some cute parts and some like shocking moments. It just had it all. I loved it. I feel like there was some insta love involved, but it was just so good. It was okay. Like I really like rooted for them. So that was all right. And I loved all the little like illustrated editions. I think it was her husband that added those in, but there are like graphs and you can see the inside of her books when she writes in them, and just all these little things that they add in that just really made the book even that much more special. So definitely 5 out of 5 stars for me. Whew! And that is it. Those are all of the 14 books that I read this month. I had a wonderful reading month, and I can't wait to just keep on going with this. I'm hoping to get at least 15 read in March, so we'll see how that goes. So much for watching. I would absolutely love to hear your favorite book of February down in the comments below. And again, thank you for watching. I'll see you again tomorrow with a new video. Bye for now.